I want what you white hoes get, and I want it today, ASAP, not tomorrow.
When I die, I'ma go to Snow Bunny Heaven. Snow Bunny Heaven.
But does anyone see that? No. Does anyone care about that? No. All they see is an aggressive black girl talking.
We need our weed. I don't wear it, but we need it.
Welcome to the show. Welcome. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for tuning in once again. We are back. It is early Saturday morning. Couldn't wait to get up and talk some shit to y'all. Appreciate you coming out. got a couple of things we're going to get to today. There's really, I guess, two topics we're going to just kind of weave together delicately here. Obviously, bonnets and basketball is just an idea I had to put together. But I think it's going to be a fun show today because we're going to talk about just, the interesting social currents of the moment. And it's kind of loosely related to Black culture in America in general, too, if you think about it. Like, we're going to start out talking about this whole bonnet thing. I don't know if you guys are aware, but basically there has been a call from Tuskegee University in particular, which is kind of like, one of the most historic of the historic Black colleges and universities. They have put out a call that there should now be a dress code among their students. And in particular, they are banning the wear of bonnets and do-rags, and I think maybe even sagging pants. I forget exactly how far it goes, but they are demanding now a more professional attire, I guess you could say, a more professional look from their student body. And I think it's appropriate already. Like, I have no issue with it. I just think that the fact that it has to be commanded is already a big sign of, how far off the path you've gotten, especially when you're supposed to be from one of the more like prestigious HBCUs. This is Tuskegee, this is Booker T. Washington. Like, this is OG, strong Black man spirit right here. And Booker T. Washington in particular, if you really look at his history, especially that whole debate between him and W.B. Du Bois, the idea that Black folks should focus on like the little things, I guess, is just a quick way to frame it. In terms of like gaining respectability in America, and in terms of gaining an earned and respected place in this country, he said, cast your buckets down where you are, meaning get to work, like, take your life on from where you are right now and build it up in whatever way you can, and take some pride in your life, behave well, dress well, approach situations out in the world well. And I guess that, might have even been the whole beginning of the respectability politics argument in Black America. Because one of the things I think that you could argue is that the civil rights movement kind of levied respectability politics in the face of America in general, right? The idea that you got a bunch of clean cut, well-dressed, well-spoken, successful Black people who are just being, denied their rightful place in whatever part of the country. That was like kind of the motivation and the spirit behind why the civil rights movement became such a catalyst. It was hard to deny an injustice to such a blameless looking group of people, right? And that's like an actual thing too, just with human psychology. Like, it's easier to like relate to people just on a visual appearance, Like think of it this way. It's like if a homeless person, they're dressed all crazy and they smell funny, and they try to approach you and tell you, hey, let me get $1, versus like, somebody in a suit approaches you and tries to, talk to you about, some type of business opportunity, you might be way more likely to invest $1,000 or, thousands of dollars with the guy in the business suit and lose thousands of dollars. But, you would recoil at the idea of even interacting with the dirty, stinky, homeless looking person, right? And in reality, you just lost thousands of dollars to a way more sophisticated criminal. But that's just the nature of human psychology. There's that whole thing about you can rob way more people with a pen than you can with a pistol. If you really understand the world of business and you know how to run a con a little bit, you can rob way more people with words than you can with a pistol. The pistol is the lowest level of the game, right? But that's there's a look that goes along with that. And people are just way more comfortable with a certain look. And this actually helps to, it's a horrible thing though it may be. It actually does help to mitigate, the black thing. Remember I was talking about this before, right? The whole idea of like, what did I call it? Understandable racism or something like that. Where it's like you got this problem, like you're black and you know what I mean? It's like don't you coming into this place, you're already black and you look like shit. At the very least, you could not look like shit. You're already black and you talk like trash. You sound like the ghetto. You could mitigate that at the very least, right? And there's this idea, I guess, with the rejection of respectability politics with Black America, and especially as the 80s and the 90s. I think once the 90s hit, that's when the argument was just totally shot, and they were just like, I'm gonna sag my pants and do whatever. But the idea that you can just kind of present yourself well and expect to be treated better, I think it is just a basic truth of just human function and psychology. But it's like Black folk are attempting, we're very reluctant to just accept that, it seems, or a lot of Black people are, especially the younger you get in the generations. There's just a huge rejection of the idea that, you ever heard that saying? You should dress for the job that you want, not the job that you have. And I think there's just wisdom in that kind of approach and that kind of thinking, but it's lost on the youth maybe.
Tuskegee University is making headlines after rolling out a new dress code just weeks before students return to campus. So the updated student handbook, it is banning bonnets, do-rags, slippers, and other casual attire in certain areas of campus. It also tightens rules around attendance, cell phone use, and classroom behavior. As students are expected to arrive on campus with at least one professional outfit. And the university says the changes are meant to prepare students for the workforce and reinforce standards that have been part of Tuskegee's culture. But the new rules are sparking debate online. Students say if they're paying for tuition and they're adults, they should be able to wear what they want to wear. But others are
like
arguing,
I just woke up and I'm lounging around in the house. That's what we're saying?
Yep.
Come on.
That's what some are saying. Yep. But others are arguing that it's a private university and students knew the rules before they chose to attend. So what do you guys think?
I mean,
I don't have a problem with that, especially if you're trying to teach kids, how to properly, or if you're trying to teach kids, if you're preparing kids for the workforce, you know what I mean? Like I don't have a problem with that.
Why would you want to present yourself that way?
I mean, honestly, and this is one of the things that I question now about the direction and the spirit of the modern university system. Like, what world are you preparing these kids for if something like a dress code is a huge issue? Is that not the idea that you go to university to become, ready for the next part of life, which is adulthood and a member of the working world, the professional world to a large degree of these university kids? Like, that's the point of being here. Like, you're not supposed to be a teenager forever, That's a whole other deal. I'm not even gonna get into that.
Outside of your house, outside of your dorm.
Well, students do it because sometimes they got early classes and they try to just get up and go. But I went to Hampton University where you could not wear any of that to class. You could not wear pajamas. You had to dress up, and on certain days you had to wear business attire to class.
Now that's different.
There was no option. So if you came to class with a do-rag, a bonnet, or your pajama pants or some fuzzies or whatever, the teacher was gonna say, get out.
Now you don't gotta dress up, but you can do like two-piece legging sets with some sneakers, put your head back in the ponytail.
Yeah, no, you had to dress
like baseball cap, whatever, but it don't have to be a bonnet,
you had to be
slippers. You don't have to
And
do
That's what they
that.
always say. You got to be presentable.
And there's schools out there
Yeah.
now that have like, fine dining restaurants, and you have to wear business casual
Yes.
attire to these restaurants, and you have to be on time to these restaurants, and they don't want you to have your phone, because they want to teach you how to sit around
Yes.
a table and have a conversation with somebody
Connect,
and look
yeah.
look them in the eyes. So I mean, I don't have a problem with this.
Yeah,
Neither
me
do
neither.
I.
Like I said, when I went to school, they like on certain days you had to wear a jacket, a suit jacket, or a blazer. You had to have a tie on. And I remember going, and a lot of brothers didn't know how to tie their tie. So
Right.
there was other people teaching each other how to tie the tie and all that. Like, yeah,
It's still great though.
Now, and that's the issue. I was just thinking about, like, I was fortunate enough to have a father who, cared about these little things too. And my dad showed me how to tie a tie. And there are things like just about, presentability, how you approach the world, how you behave out in the world. These are failures of home training. Let's put it that way, right? The fact that we have this large student body population that's not only have they created the issue that made like the staff and the university body have to react to this, but the fact that there's so much pushback against it, I think it's really a failure of just home training. Like, you really haven't actually gotten these lessons from your parents, the people who are supposed to train you before they unleashed you onto the world. Like, this is one of those, like I feel like this is where you could kind of nip one of the Black fatigue problems right in the bud right there. Like, really, a lot of this really does boil down to just basic home training. Like, people just haven't been socialized properly for modern life.
Listen, y'all. Everybody that come this way is supposed to dress for success at Grambling State University. Dropping it like it's hot, showing all the black part of your butt top. That is not dressing for success. You on college campus.
The black part of your buttock. Which one of you bitches got black buttock? Like, that sounds like a weird condition. Showing off the black part of your buttock, that sounds awful, Granny.
Everybody that come this way is supposed to dress for success at Grambling State University. Dropping it like it's hot, showing all the black part of your butt top. That is not dressing for success. You on college campus. The old alma maters, the old seniors is there. Please respect your own body. It's not right for you to be looking like that. Put on some clothes. I told my niece to put on long dresses. Please put on some clothes. If you want to get a husband, a respectable husband, then he needs to know that you are respectable.
But they're not really trying to get husbands, respectable or otherwise, right? That's really the deal. And I think I mentioned this idea before one time. Recently, we were streaming, and I was talking about the fact that women no longer need the authority of a man. They are their own independent authority now, which means they can, dress and behave in whatever way they see fit. Yet what Granny here is talking about is, if you want a husband, then, you have to behave in those traditional ways, or at the very least give off the appearance, right? You can at least, reel a nigga in, then you could twerk on him later after you done reeled him in. But you could at least give off the appearance of that traditional thing. But because women are no longer looking for husbands, why look like a wife? I think it's one of those visual cues that no matter how many words of good intent that people on the internet try to, use on women's behalf, it just never works that way, right? If you behave, with sexual freedom, men are going to engage with you based on sexual freedom. If you behave as, a woman somebody should be marrying for, long-term prospects other than sexual freedom, marriage is actually kind of the opposite of sexual freedom. If you think about it, it's really not sexual freedom. It's sexual responsibility. And if you give off one energy, you kind of are now open to that energy. And if you give off the other, then you're now open to the other. And it's just one of those things you really can't not logic. You can't like talk your way out of. That's really it. You just can't talk your way through it. You can try, but it'll always break down for the most part.
You don't need to show nothing. You need to hide it so he can at least have an imagination about what it is. Please cover it up. Please cover it up. Please hide it. They won't see it. Please don't let Slick Rick just be slobbing at the mouth just by way you looking. Please, young ladies, you don't have to dress like that. You are beautiful. You don't have to. Listen, y'all. Everybody that come this way is supposed to dress for success.
Now she's talking about Grambling University, right? We were talking about Tuskegee in the opening clip, right? Because I guess it's not just a Tuskegee thing, because it'd be crazy if it really were just Tuskegee, but it seems to be more of a cultural thing where it's just like this is the trend of the youth right now. This is the direction that, things are headed.
Do not let a bunch of niggas that's paying $50,000 just so that they can hear the Black National Anthem in full for the first time get y'all pissed off. And I say that as somebody that was a low-income student that attended and graduated Howard University. A lot of the suburban kids who are high income and their parents send them to Howard, they go because either A, is legacy, or B, they want to try to get an experience of what it means to be Black, because growing up, the only thing they know about what it means to be Black in the academic space is that they will more than likely be the only person present. So their HBCU degree is their Black card.
That's interesting, isn't it? Black kids who grew up suburban, therefore they grew up not Black, right? Which is a terrible realization, but it's one of those things that it's true because Black people make it true. It's not, objectively true. It's like very subjectively true. It becomes a de facto thing. Growing up in the suburbs means you are not Black. You can only be Black if you grow up in or very physically near low income, hyper violent, hypersexual, hyper materialistic, hyper rebellious, anti-authority rather, Black culture. You have to be ghetto to be Black is basically what the general determination has been. Because she is not the first nor the 100th person to make that realization about, the suburban Black versus the urban Black, right? Freeman's Journal, what did you call them? Suburban radicals? Like that's a whole other extreme of that manifestation, right? Where you study Black radical revolutionary theories, and then you become like this miserable, like spiteful, I want to tear down the system Black person, but at the same time, you basically are a child of privilege. It's a very, very, very weird thing, but the base of that for a lot of those people is, they need a connection to Blackness. So either you embrace it physically by, pantomiming the ghetto, you dress and you behave in a way that kind of brings you closer to the lowest element of Black achievement, or you go for the revolutionary, I'm trying to save the ghetto by being a political radical, right? These are kind of like two of the manifestations of that I'm from the suburbs and I need to find my blackness type of personality type.
Some people do think that HBCUs is supposed to be a training ground on how to be black. But that's not how it works. And it's even crazy because
you know what? Let me give a nod to that comment. You're absolutely right. Shout out to Anton. He says you missed the most important one, anti-white. Yeah, both of those archetypes technically do revolve around, you know, resenting, rejecting, and generally being hostile toward anything they perceive to be whiteness, white people, white behavior, white culture, whatever. Which this is ultimately what Black people are rejecting in their, you know, extreme radicalization or in their, you know, ghetto pantomime culture, right? They're rejecting just the general basic postures and behaviors of like middle class suburban white America, right? Like the general trend and the tone of middle class life, they perceive it to be too white or just generally, you know, it's too far from being Black. And so it's bad. And therefore they have to be for, you know, some type of other thing. But that's totally true, though. Whiteness is at the core of everything. It all really evolves around whiteness and the rejection of whiteness.
In order for the culture that everybody loves for Howard to even come about, you have to have the quote unquote low income culture, because what is it that the high income culture was going to bring? What, gatekeeping? Greek letters. They need to come to Howard University to get the permission to wear grills, so they can pick up a fake ass surface level aesthetic of what it means to be Black excellence. Niggas want to talk about their parents' high income and use that to try to slight the nicks, but we don't want to talk about how y'all been using the personality of your low income cousin whose house you go visit every summer, how you be using their personality so that y'all can be able to fit in. Y'all not ready for that one either.
That's crazy. My ghetto cousin cosplay. Middle class suburban Black kids cosplaying the personality of their ghetto cousin who's in the projects and all of that shit.
That's why, shit, as somebody that's from Detroit, when somebody say from Detroit, are you really from Detroit or are you from the suburbs? That makes a difference. If you said that you Baltimore, are you really from Baltimore or are you from Baltimore County? It makes a difference. Are you from Chicago or are you from what they consider the Chicago suburbs? Because that can sometimes make a difference. And as somebody who went to Howard, it definitely brought some awkward moments when I would meet some people and they would be under the assumption that I was one of them, in terms of I was a suburban Black girl that's coming on Howard's campus being performative with their Blackness, until I realized that no, I'm a hood baby. And then their whole perspective of me changes, because I'm not the one that's faking it.
Yeah, it's a weird little social battle that happens in Black America. The I'm the real nigga battle. You know, we actually, if you follow Black content on YouTube a lot of these panel spaces are notorious for these kind of little chest thumping moments where it's like, you know, the overwhelming vast majority of everybody on YouTube is really not about criminal behavior. Just put it that way, because you're on YouTube trying to make a living on YouTube, right? Most people on YouTube are not really doing all the driving and the shooting and the dallying about. They're just not doing all the things. But when a lot of the guys in Black YouTube get into little confrontations and little personality clashes, all of a sudden it becomes like you just a YouTube nigga. I'm really like that. I'm about that, you know, and it becomes this chest thumping, and it's like really like a spiral down to the bottom effectively, where in reality, like both of y'all are, you know, at the very least, you know, middle class aspirational, right? At the very least, you know, both you niggas probably live in the suburbs, you know, might be a condo or a duplex, but it's in the suburbs, goddamn it. You don't own, but you rent in a nice place, you know what I mean? And you really don't want to be about that life, but because I'm black and he's trying to out black me, I got to put it all on the line. This is where the crash out really starts to happen, right? I got to now put it all on the line. I got to be willing to go there. I got to be willing to catch a goddamn flight. All right? You ever caught a flight on a nigga? Come on now. Be honest. Be honest. You ever caught a flight on a nigga? Cause he was talking shit on a YouTube panel. You gotta pull up now, because I'm not gonna let this internet nigga tell me about how black I am. How dare this nigga challenge my nigganess? I know this nigga not trying to challenge my nigganess. This, like, sometimes you just really gotta pull up and catch a flight on a nigga, man. That's all. That's really how niggas be. And this is wow. It's something that is almost completely unique to like black YouTube. You rarely like see that type of meltdown outside of black YouTube. It really, it's fun to watch. I ain't gonna lie, that shit do be fun to watch, man. Shout out to black YouTube.
Oh yeah, there is powerful niggardry at work here.
And big shout out to True Hype early in the morning with the $25 coffee. That is a big ass frappuccino, my nigga. Shout out to True Hype. He said, appreciate the hood philosophy in the AM for my cardio session. You know what? You just reminded me. As soon as I'm done, I gotta get my cardio in after this show. You know, I gotta remind myself. I gotta hit the treadmill too, man. Shout out to my man True Hype with the big giant coffee donation. If you want to support the show, you can hit me up on Venmo at The Hoodservative, or you could be like True Hype and buy me a big ass frappuccino. Click the link in the chat. Hit me up on buymeacoffee.com. Support the show, man. It takes a lot to keep this thing going on a Saturday morning, y'all.
It costs a lot of money to bring the real. And with this, I dress myself in cashmere. I dress myself in $100 Cleveland slacks. I dress myself in alligator shoes. I wear a $15,000 Rolex. I got Mercedes-Benz, Rolls-Royce, the biggest house on the biggest deal. Yeah, we don't care. I got Mercedes-Benz, Rolls-Royce, the biggest house on the biggest deal. Yeah, we don't care. You're talking to the Rolex wearing, diamond ring wearing, kiss stealing, wheeling dealing, limousine like jet flying. Son of a gun, the biggest star of them all. It costs a lot of money to bring the real world champion on location. Only an Arnie and Ricky. We do it for everybody else. Don't wrap me up. No.
Tuskegee University has potentially banned bonnets. Let's talk about it. The main talking about people usually rally to when banning a bonnet.
I'm mad that the first thing the nigga did was run and put his bonnet on. This is the performative bonnet, y'all. He really he started the show out. Look at, I mean, not the show. He started the video out with, you know, I got my, this is like the haircut of the young thinking nigga, you know. He's like a level 1 pro-black right now. That's like the type of hair that comes with. He just really got into his blackness. You know what I mean? He might get some dreads. He might get some cornrows. You never know what type of nigga he's ultimately going to turn into. But no. He went straight for the performative bonnet, though. So you got to immediately hate this nigga no matter how he turns out in life.
Tuskegee University has potentially banned bonnets. Let's talk about it. The main talking about people usually rally to when banning of bonnets, do-rags, dress shoes, and certain other things that are predominantly in black culture is the scene of it being unprofessional. The idea of me putting on a bonnet has lowered my professional rating in a professional sense. I believe that's not the case. The true value of being professional has always been measured in whiteness. As you see, white men can come in with longer hair. White men can come in with their hair in certain different ways, and it's not seen as unprofessional.
Being professional is whiteness, y'all. And you know what? Like, I get tired of even trying to like fight that fight. All right, you know what? Fuck it. So what? All right. You want the white man's job, you got to follow the white man's rules. Right? I'm tired of even trying to fight the fight against it. You know what? You know what? I'm not even going to try to convince you that professionalism is kind of it is relatively subjective by nature, right? It is a subjective thing. If you want to do business with the cannibals in the jungle, you might have to put a bone through your nose, all right? Like if you want to trade in shrunken heads with cannibals in the jungle, you might have to put a bone through your nose, you know, have sex with the chief's wife so you become part of the tribe, whatever. You got to do what you got to do to be a part of the community to get what you want, all right? If you want to, you know, trade stocks and shit like that, if you want to work in the corner office next to Ted and Bob, maybe you got to get a haircut and wear a nice Italian suit. Maybe those are the different, you know, subjective realities of professionalism. All right. And you could be like jungle professional, or you could be white man professional, right? You can be, you could, dare I say, you can be nigga professional and then be nigga successful, or you can be white professional and be white successful. These are all the trade-offs. You know what? I'm just not even going to fight you niggas about what professionalism actually is anymore. If you say it's white, fine, it's white, bro.
And that trickles down to stuff like a bonnet and a do-rag, because they're seeing your hair as a toy and not an expression of yourself. I think it's very prominent when you see men wear do-rags when they work out, men wear do-rags in all different types of places, but now we can't wear them in the educational sense. We can't wear them when we're going to school. We can't wear them when we're about to eat at the school we pay for. It almost puts young kids and young Black individuals in general.
What if I were to tell you that the do-rag is actually blocking your melanin connection from the sun? Like the fact that your head has a direct energy pathway, there's a direct energy conduit between the melanin at the top of your scalp and the sunlight and all of its intergalactic rays. And now you got on this do-rag, this artificial, man-made, chemical-laced contraption on top of your head. It is actually hindering your melanin. What if I were to tell you that it's actually blocking in your full melanin? It's blocking and locking in your melanated potential. You need to unlock your melanin and actually just, you know, go without the bonnet and the do-rag. What if I were to tell you that?
In a pace of not being able to understand themselves, why can I wear my bonnet, my do-rag in almost any location, but I come in a place where I've paid you, I want to learn, I'm coming to class and I'm getting discredited, I'm asked to leave the class, so many different things because I have a bonnet on. The story alone reeks of white supremacy and reeks of respectability politics. As Black people have always been told to be respectful, they've always been told to act right, act professional, as a way to assimilate themselves into the white Western culture America has predicated. But what most don't really understand and are very sadly mistaken about is that proximity to whiteness is not possible. Proximity to whiteness is not what you can achieve. Black people, minorities, historically have tried to bow down to the white man countless times and have been ethnically genocided in pursuit of this, have taken whole cultures off the map, have creased off whole languages in history. But you believe respectability politics would be the way for equality. I hope institutions all across America, and HBCUs especially, do not subscribe to these anti-Black, professionalism rhetoric that constantly destroys Black confidence between all different ages, whether that be a 35-year-old Black man who's been growing out his dress for 15 years and been told to cut him off. That'd be the 16-year-old Black man that just got his braids done and wanted to wear his do-rag to class. You'll be failing everyone by professionalizing a scenario and where people want to learn.
This is one of the reasons why I have such an indictment against the Black university culture in particular. I really question what are y'all niggas learning in school? Because it seems like, and actually not even seems like, it's just a known thing that the university has been the epicenter and the gravitational core of all things woke and progressive in general. And, it goes maybe triple for Black culture. You remember back in the 90s, it was almost like really a great government psyop. It was like Hollywood and the CIA really, really worked together. And that's why you went from the Cosby Show to A Different World, where we really, really went in overdrive promoting all these Black people going to a Black college so they can get their Black experience, right? Like it really does kind of, that big push, it seems like it kind of goes back to the 90s. And the 90s itself had its own just, really kind of like popularized Black culture. The Africa thing was really, really strong back then. You had a lot of rap groups that were kind of like African themed or whatever, these like revolutionary theme groups and whatnot. And a lot of that was really, really happening hard on like the college campuses then.
I think a lot of y'all are missing the point. It is anti-Black for an HBCU to ban bonnets and do-rags. Respectability is rooted in anti-Blackness. I don't know why y'all keep ignoring that and overlooking that fact. I think y'all just cling on to the fact that everything that Black people do, we do well, and that means we do dandy well, we do quote-unquote professional attire well, and you think that that is something that we created or inherited. No. We were forced these respectable societal norms and expectations. And so for an HBCU, a culturally Black institution, to further police Black students in such a way, it's shameful. It's shameful. I think a lot of y'all are missing the point. It is anti-Black for an HBCU.
Class with a bonnet on and pajamas. And realistically, why would you that's like that's?
I mean, that's what I'm saying. It's college. I mean,
it's cool. Put some sweatpants on. Go to the whatever. Go to your school. Go to your joint and buy your school sweatpants. Then
I get it if you saying high school. Like I said, college. When you saying you paying for everything and all that. I get it why people will be like, nah, I'm going my bonnet. I ain't wash clothes. I ain't get out.
Come on, dog. But guess what I'm saying? And then guess what? When you allow that and you feel like that's okay, it trickles over to adults. I mean, Todd was just having this conversation the other day when it was like, it's cool to sit here and say like,
why do people keep, saying that you paying for it as if that matters? Like, do you think a 5-star restaurant doesn't have a dress code just because you're paying, $800 a plate or whatever it is? Like, just because you're paying doesn't mean there is no, standard. And it's crazy actually when you think about it. This actually does reek of the lowest of culture attempting to like assert itself, because really, on the one hand, having money, a lot of these people seem to associate having or spending money with kind of being above the standard, right? Well, like the standard of behavior is, actually a certain type of look and a certain type of behavior, right? Literally, that is a standard. Yeah, there's like that kind of what you call maybe the new money attitude, where it's because I have money now, I can obliterate, not just, slightly like get around. It's not even like I'm trying to skirt the rules, but I can obliterate the rules. I can obliterate the standard because I have money. And this is one of those things where it's like, what you can take the nigga out the hood, but you can't take the hood out the nigga. That's really kind of what people are like exhibiting in a lot of ways, because it's not about the money, is it? It's not about the money. Albert says, because I have a degree. That's actually another way to spin that. People use that in a very similar fashion, where it's like, because this paper on the wall behind me, it means you're retarded and I'm not. This book that I read one time, it means you don't know anything and I know everything, right? I just looked it up on Chat GPT, and that means I'm a genius and you're a moron, right? Like, people do kind of just take weird postures with a lot of these things. Are arguing from authority, right? Is the I guess the logical fallacy claim of it all. But that people try to do these things, it's like, because I have this, I can just obliterate all the other norms of behavior. Because I have this one thing. It's like I literally have Excalibur, and nothing else matters now. People get crazy with it.
I understand people, again, when the older you get, you kind of don't even, but these people ain't even old. These still are young people, but the older you get, you kind of don't care about you don't really care about what you're going, I'm about to just run to the grocery store. Cool. With all that being said, you should have and I'm just sitting here saying this for everybody, because again, most people are like, I can't never meet nobody nowhere. We could tie this into dating. You can't never meet nobody. If I'm going to see him, I'm going to go run into Walmart and I got these goddamn pajama pants on that I didn't drop blunts on it, and they got dirty sprays on their holes in them and everything. Got my bonnet on, dingy t-shirt, all the nines. You can literally still run to the store and have you you can have like your little bin full of run to the store clothes. Even if you can have you a sweatsuit, a t-shirt that's just literally just for that, but it looks like you presented and put some time in. I'm not sitting here saying you got to have no type of logos, design, or nothing. You can literally listen to what I'm telling you. Me and Erica talk about shopping on TikTok Shop all the time. Bro, I'm not sitting here saying spend $1 million. You can buy you a $20 little outfit. You can spend $100 and have you 5 little outfits that you just want to see and put on with a top and bottom. And you can sit here and keep it moving around, but no, y'all, I swear to you, before they even made this jump.
If it was a high school thing, yeah, like I said, I get what you're saying, like you telling the parents, but like I said, you about to tell people like, nah, you need to put clothes on to go to sit in the class. Like I said, 9 times out of 10 people, I ain't washed clothes, I ain't did this. Like, niggas don't want to get ready. Like, I'm just going in there sitting this.
To me, that's just like when you start that habit, how do you ever cut that habit off?
But like I said, I feel like even with you saying that, but like you said, even with the Streamer University, like when you start seeing a lot of them, you didn't see them in their uniforms. They started putting their own clothes on or whatever the case may be. Like I said, you get comfortable with like, damn, I'm about to sit in this class. I don't even want to be in this class for real. Like you say, I'm paying for this. So for you to say I'm paying for this school, and then on top of you tell me what to wear, I don't think it's going to fly.
Another thing that occurs to me as I'm kind of just thinking about the whole debate and the issue of standards, standards don't exist in a vacuum, right? They don't just materialize out of just desire or whatever, right? The problem with a standard is that it needs to be enforced in order to be maintained. And the amount of enforcement directly correlates to the level of attainment. The more you enforce the standard, the more people will actually attain the standard, right? Even if for no other reason that you now have to aspire, you now have to do what you have to do. And Freeman's Journal says, who is the enforcer? Oh, wow. You don't want to go there, Freeman, bro. You don't want to go there. Who is the enforcer of standards?
But I want to address this simping allegation. Do I simp for black women? Yes. I love black women. I don't like y'all niggas. This is an easy decision to make. Sorry.
You want me on that wall. You need me on that wall.
Culturally speaking, I think there is a huge pull. That there are two polar opposites right now in the tug of war. And standards are at the heart of it all. Black men, by and large, have ceded, cultural authority and standard control, any quality control. Black men have basically ceded to black women, right? So on the one hand, you have standards as represented by black culture at large.
But if man had to find out that his God was a woman,
I say the black woman is God, and
black woman is God.
I say the black woman is God.
The black woman is God because, she was the first organism on this planet.
But then right below Freedman Journal's question, shout out to the lovely Miss Cantrell. Standards of language, dress, etc., all white racism, right? And that's the other pole that's being pulled here. That's the other direction we're being pulled in. It is the general standards of Western culture and civilization, which to a large degree, with whether you like to argue against it or not, it's basically the white man, right? Now, you can choose to live up to the standards of the black community, which are really controlled by the black women, right? So there's the standards as understood by black women, and then there's the standard as understood by, the evil, horrible, terrible, no good, very bad white man.
And I want to understand white rage, and I'm white.
He has awful, horrible standards. His standards, listen, you don't want to live like the white man. All right, you niggas don't want to live like the white man. That's really what it is. You want to live like Keisha. That's and I understand. I understand. Maybe not everybody wants to live in suburban upper middle class, quiet, peaceful, safe, white America. Nobody likes that shit. Everybody, you niggas would hate it. You niggas would hate it out there where the white folks live. I promise you. You niggas don't want to live nowhere near the white
man. And that includes a dress code. President Dr. Mark A. Brown sent out a welcome letter to students outlining the new policy and behavioral standards for the academic school year. Dear Tuskegee University students, we're excited to welcome you to Tuskegee University next month as you are arriving at an extraordinary time in the university's history. Tuskegee has entered its Renaissance era of transformation and renewal, and we are expecting a 32-year new student enrollment high in August. Tuskegee is focused on challenging you academically with resources to ensure graduation while preparing you for the workplace. You're required to find internships in their area of interest, identify certifications to enhance professional skills, and develop a resume. There are more than 30 certifications you can get at Tuskegee at no additional cost. You must also visit the University Career Center in Kinney Hall. It is there where you'll be able to connect with potential employers, internships, and learn more about career opportunities long before your senior year. You cannot wait until you are a senior to focus on your career options. The university has developed a new policy for student attire on campus, classroom attendance, and cell phone use in classrooms. Tuskegee students now have a dress code for public and professional places. The student handbook requires students to arrive on campus with a business suit and proper shoes for a business meeting. Students are prohibited from wearing revealing clothing in class, to the cafeteria, or in official settings like convocation. They're also not able to wear bedroom shoes, bonnets, or do-rags to class or the cafeteria. Faculty will be empowered to respond to students who are inappropriately dressed based on these guidelines. Faculty will also be able to respond to a different classroom challenge, cell phones. Unless directed by the professor, students are no longer allowed to use their cell phones while in class. They should be turned off to eliminate any distraction from the instructor's lesson. We are attaching the attendance policy to minimize any confusion around attendance. Students are required to go to class. That is the heart of all academic success, and we track attendance. The goal here is not meant to restrict you from enjoying the Tuskegee experience, but to prepare you with a solid foundation for the workforce you will enter once you leave Tuskegee. Employers are less forgiving, and too often presentation may overrule stellar preparation. Tuskegee University continues to prepare the best and brightest for a lifetime of success. With these changes, we want to ensure every student is as prepared as they can be. I look forward to seeing you in August. We
say on Tuskegee right now is that I don't see any problem with what Dr. Brown has implemented. And I got to say this as like the resident young person on the panel right now, that I guess this is going to get people in a tizzy, but I do think that young Black students need to embody rigor, not only in how they show up for class and how they dress. How I was taught in my home was how you show up indicates a lot about how A, the teacher is going to treat you, B, how your classmates are going to receive you, and B, what position and posture you're in to learn, right? So if I show up in the thing that I went to sleep with, because we're not only talking about do-rags and bonnets, right? We're also talking about house slippers. If I show up to school in my pajamas, am I equipped to learn that day? Realistically, the answer is no. I'm still asleep. I haven't showered. I haven't brushed my teeth. I haven't really started my day. I haven't activated.
Who is raising these children? You just showing up like whatever? You know the problem about rejecting respectability means that you also reject the prospect of respect. I think Black folk, and this is because we have the pull of the Keisha culture, right? The standards of Black America. It says I must be respected no matter how I show up. Whereas just human nature kind of doesn't work that way. If you show up better, people tend to treat you better. And this demand that, even though I reject respectability, I need to be respected at the same time is just not going to fly.
Myself. Let's also talk about decorum in terms of honoring our professors. One of the things I love is being on here with Dr. Carr sometimes, because that was my professor at Howard University. Do you know how much of an honor that is sometimes to share the stage with him? I came from a tradition that we used to honor our elders, right? I would not show up and hug and kiss my grandmother with a bonnet or do-rag on because I'm in the presence of someone that I consider an elder, right? So I'm in class with someone who's taken their time out to really dedicate themselves to the education of young Black students. And I can't get dressed in a way that's considered or deemed appropriate. What am I really doing there, right? I think what Tuskegee University is trying to do is continue their tradition of excellence that was started by their founder, W.E.B. Du Bois. And if we really think about where, what the policies that and the philosophies that Du Bois embodied, this is not too far from it, right? All we're asking here is not about respectability politics. It's about how young Black boys and Black girls are going to show up in the world and how they're going to be received. We already know, Roland, that we have to be twice as good. How are we going to be able to do that if we're not stepping up to the plate in terms of how we're showing up in the classroom? That starts.
I mean, I think we got to stop using that whole twice as good cliche. I mean, a lot of you niggas don't even want to be half as good. That's really what's happening. Like, if a lot of people have just completely lowered the bar of behavior in general, then that's the reality of it. You just don't even want to be half as good anymore. And you never really had to, well, not never, I'm not even going to say never, but the idea that you have to be twice as good is like, that is a civil rights cliche. It just is. That whole thing is over.
Tuskegee University banned bonnets, pajamas, do-rags, slippers for their Black students to wear on their majority Black campus. And it's funny, right? Because I went to a private HBCU and I wore bonnets, slippers, pajama pants to class, to the food hall, around campus almost every other day.
I'm noticing a lot of septum rings in these young bonnet wearing. Like all the young men who wear bonnets also have a septum ring. What's up with that? Does the bonnet come with a septum ring? It's like a 2-for-1 pack or some shit like that.
And that never stopped me from getting all A's in my last semester. It didn't stop me from ending my college career with a 3.6 GPA with Phi Beta Kappa honors, magna cum laude honors, Alpha Kappa Delta honors. You feel me? I got some of the highest academic honors you can get in undergrad while wearing the bonnet, with the pajama pants, with the slippers simultaneously. Because a bonnet, slippers, and pajama pants will not determine your success level. That is literally bullshit. It is black bourgeoisie, respectability politics, colonial thinking bullshit. A bonnet is just a satin cloth. Same with a do-rag. Slippers, pajama pants, they're just articles of clothing. They have no determinant on what you're gonna do when you get out into the social world. It has no determinant on your success level. That's so fucking stupid. But again, we're dealing with black bourgeoisie, respectability thinking, colonial thinking bullshit here. So of course it's gonna be fucking stupid. And mind you, I went to Morehouse College, and no shade, Morehouse College is way more well regarded than Tuskegee University. No shade. Like, how am I able to find success while wearing a bonnet, slippers, pajama pants? But black students at Tuskegee, people that think like me or me, literally just me in a different font, right? They can't find success at Tuskegee while wearing bonnets and slippers and pajama pants because I don't want to be on bullshit. Sucks.
Wayne, I wonder what his degree is into. It's like a 50%, like a 60% chance he's got some type of Black Studies degree. He's like majored in Negronomics or some shit like that.
Tuskegee University, which is an HBCU, has banned bonnets, do-rags, and bedroom shoes in class under new dress code policy. And not only is this anti-Black, I raised a question. Why can't you be a safe place for Black students? Everywhere we go as Black Americans, we are being judged by a system that was never meant for us. So you would think people that are part of the HBCU would give an understanding to Black Americans and let them wear their bonnets, do-rags, or bedroom shoes in class. One, you don't know what people are going through. When you are depressed, you don't want to get up and do your hair, but you still want to go to class. So if this person was willing to just throw on their bonnet and do-rag and go to class, they would be more willing to go because of that. But if they have to go get dressed, be sure, and be professional, they may just end up not going altogether. And it's also like, you don't know if people are going in between hair appointments. They don't have enough money to afford the next hair appointment, so they might wear a do-rag or bonnet to cover their hair because it's not up to par, and they can't afford to address it that day. There are so many examples or things to be understanding in a safe space for Black students, but instead you want to impose white supremacy and be like, you better come here professional or you're going to be in trouble. So yes, Tuskegee University and HBCU has definitely dropped the ball with this new dress code policy. We will see if enough of the pushback, they will actually change it or reverse it. But yes, as of now, you cannot wear bonnets, do-rags, and bedroom shoes in class under their new dress code policy.
So you know what I think happens? I want to kind of switch gears a little bit too. And again, this is one of the reasons why I said I have just such an indictment against Black university culture, because it's something like matriculating up and outward from the university network, like this constant racial and political grievance culture that comes out of Black America. And now it's like, because you've been educated in that culture, and because like the nature of colleges, you kind of just become like embedded in that world. It's like being in a little nucleus, it's a little bubble, and you kind of have to just, you take on and internalize a lot of these things. So by the time you get out of there, it's just like, this is just who I am. I think these things, like I literally like operate on this, this operating system. And you get up into the professional world. And honestly, for a while now, it wasn't that hard for people to kind of make it work. There was all this, DEI culture, and all the just wokeness in general gave you a place to go. And everything started getting woke over the last 20-ish years or whatever. And people noticed it and people complained about it. And eventually people just kind of, became unhappy about it and started to push back against it, which now it's created this problem of having a lot of people, during the first year, I guess, of Trump's recent administration, Black women began to get fired in huge numbers. And a lot of it was just because of government trimming and, the whole Doge thing or whatever. But basically, my calculation is that if you were really critical to operations, they wouldn't just fire you, without much cause anyway. Like just trimming the numbers down, they wouldn't just fire you if you're really critical. So the fact that so many Black women got fired just like that, maybe you weren't that critical. So it's like there might not be a market for college educated woke niggas like there used to be. Which brings me to this nigga.
To me, it seemed like it was almost like buck breaking.
Slavery term.
Where you're the outspoken one, you're alpha. Let's embarrass him so everybody else gets in line. So nobody else talks crazy to us anymore, goes through emails or whatever. Like, no, let's teach him a lesson. Let's embarrass him on national TV so that they all line up.
Yeah, I think
Jesse Lee said these people are supposed to be working at AutoZone. I mean, at least you would be providing a service to the community if you were at AutoZone, all right? Because them niggas actually work. Most of them are actually helpful. I rarely go to AutoZone and have a bad time.
I think that could be part of it, Like, I also know that this is a private company. They get to make their decisions based on what they want to make them on what they want to do. What I do know is they didn't take a vote. This wasn't about the majority, right? This wasn't about the people I work with day to day, because my phone don't say that. Production people who ain't worked with me in 5-6 years. Thank you for how you treated me. Thank you for the laughs. Thank you for your professionalism. Thank you for showing up constantly. Monday night. Thank you for always. If we didn't have any talent on a meeting, you were always there. You were always on time. You were always building things for the other people on that set. Thank you. Man, like this show, for 3 years, bro, we never shied away from any topic. We never shied away from tackling anything. We did this year because I knew I couldn't have no beef. I knew I couldn't respond to disrespect, right? I knew, for lack of a better word, I couldn't be too Black. What makes me sad is...
What does that mean, though? You couldn't be too Black. What is it about being Black in particular that will threaten your high-paying job at ESPN? What is it about Blackness that, makes it harder to be successful? Let's put it that way.
Even in trying to adjust to be at least more of what certain people wanted, they still fired. Man, like this show.
You ever just have a really Black day? You know how like girls used to say like they're having a bad hair day? You ever just wake up, you just like feeling like too Black? Like most days, your nigga level is down at like a manageable 4 or 5 even, but for whatever reason, today you're just on like an 8. You ever been just too Black before? Put a 1 in the chat if you just ever been too Black. I'm trying to think back through my life if I can like recall ever being too Black. Like have my numbers ever been, a little bit unmanageable? Have I ever let my Blackness level just get, a little unchecked? I'm not even sure what that means. Like I'm trying to figure it out. Have you ever been too black, y'all? It's a real question. You know, we get to the real questions here. I don't know if you guys are new. We got a few people in the chat today. We got a good amount of people in here. Shout out to everybody in the audience. Please remember, like the show, do all the things, you guys. Pretty sure one of you guys forgot. You got to do all the things. You got to like, share, and subscribe. Plus, if you're not too tired after all the things, click the link in the chat. You know, hit me up on buymeacoffee.com. You can buy me a coffee of any size, a big grande, a little tiny frappuccino, whatever. Just support the show. You can hit me up on Venmo at The Hoodservative, y'all. But have you ever been too black? This is a good question. We got to get to the bottom of that shit.
Using layoffs as a cover and a camouflage for what they already intended on doing. But there was no cause for it, right? So because there was no cause for it, you couldn't just fire me. So you had to wait to the layoff so you could camouflage it and veil it, right? But here's the other thing. If I was laid off like everybody else, they came out on Tuesday. Mine came out on Friday. I get the call. I get a text from our showrunner that tells me to call my boss. I call my boss in the break, tells me they're letting me go.
Now, I do have a heart. I do have at least a baseline level of human sympathy. And, man to man, I've been fired before. It's a gut punch for any man to just get fired, right? The unexpected, well, sometimes it's coming and you totally expect it. But just having that day, on your shoulders, I get that. And getting fired on air, like to have that type of job, to be like literally on television or whatever, you're live on air. And then because I think some rumors were going around and the company wanted to like get ahead of the news, they basically fired you before like the story got scooped or whatever. And you get fired on air. And I hear that he just walked off the set or whatever. He was like, fuck this, I'm going fishing. And that's awful. That is totally unprofessional. It's incredibly poor employee management. It's just awful to do that to like a human being. Like he's a man, he's a person. You just hit people like that. It's crazy work. So eventually he went on to the next podcast and he cried about it with the homies.
He said, this is a very awkward call. This is a hard call. I could hear how hard it was for him. And if anybody was going to call me that was anywhere on the executive level, whether low or high, he's the person I wanted to, the way he's fought for me and rode for me. And he said, our friends, jokingly, at Outkick had the story and we're going to leak it. Let me tell you why I know I was fired. Because during the season, after some of the Kyron Lacey news broke, there were people on our network along with me that said something about it. Both of those people apologized, as did I. I didn't want to, right? I was told I couldn't come to work if I didn't. And at that point I said, well, I can't come to work tomorrow because I don't believe I did anything wrong. Some conversations happened and we got to that point. And Outkick wrote an article about all the people that apologized, two very prominent faces at ESPN. And they praised them for who they were and how they brought this thing back around. And they bashed me, talked about how negative I was and spoke about me in such a nasty way. And I sent an email at that time.
I mean, maybe you were being too black. All that negative behavior that they accused you of, maybe those were the times when you were at your blackest. I mean, I'm just kind of theorizing here. Tell me if I'm wrong. Chat, help me out. Put a 1 in the chat if blackness is associated with negative behavior. Put a 1 in the chat if negative behavior and blackness have a general correlation. All right? I'm not saying correlation is causation. I'm just saying correlation.
To Burke Magnus and Dave Roberts, who were working, because we were on an email talking about how we were going to handle it. And I was very poignant in saying, you have to watch who you listen to about me. There's certain people who want to paint me as a certain thing, certain people who want to devalue my voice, certain people who, no matter what I do, with all the great I've done, they've never mentioned that. But in this case, there are 3 people who are very important to this network, who all did the same thing, who all responded in the same way. And only one of us was vilified. And only one of us was a black man. And so how point.
You know, there's another part of just the modern black media grievance world that this just bugs the hell out of me. During the civil rights era, right? You know, back when I was talking about this earlier, when they were all, you know, well dressed, and many of them actually were educated in some way. You know, they actually went to university when it was actually a school and not just, you know, a woke factory or whatever. Many black people back then, they just seemed to be regular, decent, normal people. Right? They were just regular people. But now these niggas are oppressed to millionaires, y'all. Like, they literally opened up, you know, well, not opened up. When I first started talking about Ryan Clark, one of the guys said that this whole thing feels like slavery or some shit, right? Just automatically just making it like, you know, this is, you know, this is so horrible. This is just like back when we had to pick cotton for free. You know, all these millions of dollars, this is just like the plantation. I can't, all this money smell like the cotton master used to make me pick, you know? Oppressed millionaires is just the crazy idea that we have to get, like we have to actually like swallow in the modern world. Like and it is not even like, you know, if you were to go around the ghettos with a camera crew, or you know, live on the ground interviews and start talking to people, you would start to get the idea that, you know, a lot of what's going on with that person's life isn't necessarily like, you know, oppression. You know what I mean? There's not like a truckload of white guys hunting them down, dragging them back to the farms and shit like that. You know, you are a free person in the world making decisions all day long. And you're going to be like, damn, so where's the oppression at? Because then you turn on your TV and everybody who was making like an actual television wage, which is, you know, pretty much millions of dollars, especially over a couple of years, all these people have earned millions of dollars and they're on television telling you that there's a lot of oppression out there. Right? And I'm here to fight. I'm here to remind you. It is my job to speak out about the oppression. But then you go look in the ghetto and it's like, I'm having a hard time finding the oppression. I just, you know, all I see is niggas. I don't really see no oppression. I be looking for it and it's not there. And then, you know, and now you got all these millionaires reminding you again that you know, there's oppression out there somewhere. You know, he's oppressed in the mansion that master bought him. You know what I mean? And because he knows he lives in the mansion that master bought him, it's like a sleight of hand. And this is that suburban radical personality type that I was talking about earlier, where like he's well too invested in all the trappings of success in the upper middle class world and all that, right? He's in the world of wealth and privilege. So he doesn't really have the draw of just general, you know, niggatry behavior, right? You know, all the ghetto-fied behavior. He is kind of a little bit above that, right? So he's not going in that route behaviorally, but he's chosen the other route, which is I have to identify with true blackness, which is the ghetto. I have to identify with the ghetto by fighting oppression. And so now in the master's mansion that I'm almost finished paying off, I have to remind you niggas about all the oppression in the world. I might even cry a little bit just to, stab at the heartstrings and shit.
How purposeful is it to make sure that that's the exact same publication that gets the story that I'm going to be fired? Because you know what they're going to do? They're going to praise ESPN. They're going to pump ESPN up for getting rid of the person who stands up for the community. And they're going to say that these are all the reasons why I didn't belong on TV in the first place.
And there it is. I was standing up for the community. You mean the community full of niggas that you really are nothing like? If you were ever like them, you are way, way, way beyond that now. And this is your effort. You sacrificed it all. You literally got fired from your job for being like hyper woke. And I don't even think it was just that you were being hyper woke. Like, they could probably tolerate you, always wanting to play up the black cause. But here's the other angle that you probably haven't really internalized yet, right? And this is something that I've noticed across the board. It tends to be true a lot, more than 50%. I can't really lock down a good number, but a lot of times I'm noticing this with a high correlation rate. A lot of the people who constantly fight for the community come off as very unlikable people. It's just like you would probably hate having to share an elevator with that person. Like, imagine having to take an elevator up to the 30th floor or some shit. You would hate that elevator ride, Like, a lot of these people who just all they ever do is fight for the community. It's like they just become the most cantankerous, unlikable, just jittery, distasteful people. Wokeness. It's like that. Wokeness does kind of rot you from the inside out. Like woke women become physically unattractive. That is an external kind of projection, but internally, it's not like they're charming people with fabulous personalities either. There's something about being woke. It's such a rejection of all the general normal mannerisms of common behavior or whatever, that it just turns you into somebody that people would rather not be around. Which, speaking of people that people would rather not be around, I actually want to talk about the WNBA. Yeah. I remember when the Caitlin Clark phenomenon first hit the WNBA. All of a sudden, a lot of dudes who I've never, ever heard talk about women's basketball before, all of a sudden, these niggas were the most well-versed in all kind of female basketball stats. They knew who the all-stars were. They knew who the up-and-coming rookie talent was. I was impressed. It's like, wow, you guys really know a lot about lady ball. Kudos to you niggas. Like, niggas suddenly bust out all their hidden lady ball knowledge. I was like, wow, I had no idea. I'd never really got into lady ball. It was not my thing. Even, now I don't watch much sports anyway, but recently, lady ball has just become this whole giant phenomenon, right? And I just never got into it. And I remember I was on a panel. I think I was on SKC's panel, if I recall. And I was telling SKC that the WNBA is basically a lesbian psyop. That's what I told him. I told FKC that the WNBA is a lesbian psyop. It is this giant push to give big, athletic, lesbian Black women a high income and national visibility, effectively raising a flag to all the lesbians in the future that, you know, they need a place in the world. Now you can go play lady ball in the WNBA. Because as most of you know, lady ball is not financially viable on its own, right? Lady ball is it's basically a subsidiary of the NBA. Lady ball is something that the NBA was kind enough to let the ladies do. Because a lot of these, you know, basketball players, and especially the Black ones, you know, they can't stand against the pressure of all these Black women demanding equal treatment on the court. And they were like, all right, listen, you girls get to have your lady ball league. And we're not going to bother you. We're going to pay for it the whole time. We're not going to say nothing. We're not going to complain. You know, whatever you get is your money. We're going to make sure you get to have lady ball, though, right? And so lady ball's been around for what 20 years now? How long have they been playing lady ball, y'all? I have no idea, really. How long have they been playing professional lady ball? It doesn't fucking matter, because nobody cared about lady ball until just recently when Caitlin Clark came around. And so now that we have a Caitlin Clark, everybody loves lady ball. But the problem with Caitlin Clark is that lady ball has been the home, the realm. It's basically been dominated by very athletic, often masculine to the point of question. You know, I'm not sure if Brittany's really a Brittany or a Brandon, but lady ball has come to be the playground of athletic lesbian Black women. Some of them quite aggressive even. You know, I'm not going to call them ugly. I prefer the Don Imus approach. Lady ball has been dominated by nappy-headed hoes. All right, it's true. Shout out to Don Imus. May he rest in peace, right? Lady ball has been, and maybe taken over is the wrong word. It was never taken over. It was always owned by big, athletic, nappy-headed hoes. You know, which is why, you know, of course, they love the bonnets. You know, lady ball professionals love the bonnets, right? But that's another thing. But the problem is all these nappy-headed hoes, and then a lot of them have been decent ball players in their own right. I'm not going to say they've all been complete trash. There have been some legit phenoms. But generally speaking, they haven't really earned their keep, let's put it that way, financially speaking, until very recently. They're starting to actually put money in, you know, on the board. They're putting numbers on the board financially very lately, and it's all because of Caitlin Clark. But Caitlin Clark is not a Black athletic lesbian. She is a Midwestern white woman who's very, very straight, apparently, you know. And she's just not fitting in well with the overall lady ball culture that she's been adopted into, drafted into.
At its best, what the league has to offer is yourself and Paige Beckers and Asia Wilson. The list goes on and on.
Yeah.
And yet so much of the discourse feels completely and totally unrelated to that. Do you feel that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of it is like, it's not always based in reality. I feel like media and journalism have a responsibility to tell the stories. And a lot of times, like, you guys are the ones controlling the narratives about what people read and what people talk about. And a lot of that is sometimes so far out of touch with what is reality. And that can be confusing to somebody that's 24 and trying to navigate life and trying to help her team win a championship.
Case in point, an incident like Alyssa Thomas, the
Mhm.
foul. A foul happens on the court.
Yeah.
You move on.
Mhm.
She moves on.
Yeah.
And that should be the end of it.
100%.
So top down, what needs to be done so that that is?
It seems like there's always a moment like that in every season that I've played so far. And I think for myself, like I just try to navigate it the best I can. It gets exhausting. It gets frustrating because I think especially like that's a perfect example of like, yeah, it was a hard foul and it should have been dealt with in the moment and they should have decided what it was then and reviewed it. Great. We move on. You see it happen in the NBA all the time. It's not anything more than that. It's basketball. When I walk out of the locker room, I shouldn't be not fearful of what the conversation is going to be, but you know, you just like, it's emotionally exhausting. It's draining. It makes your shoulders tense because, you know, people don't want to talk about the basketball. They just want to stir it up and make something else.
How do you square the way that you are covered with who you know yourself to be?
I think there's just like a false characterization of who I am sometimes. Like, and I get it. Like as a reporter or as a blogger, like you can write an opinion piece and that's your job and whatever. But at the same time, like you don't know me. Like we've never had a conversation. I get people have a job to do, but at the same time, like don't make accusations about my character and who I am when you don't know me. I understand.
Now, what's really fascinating about Caitlin Clark as a lady ball professional, and because the WNBA is it's so fully dominated with Black lesbian lady ball professionals that I'm trying to find a delicate way to put this. Caitlin Clark is so much better at lady ball than all the other Black lesbians in the WNBA that it has to be racism. Like, have you ever been so much better than somebody else that the only other explanation is racism? That's really what's been going on with Caitlin Clark. She is so thoroughly dominating all the other lady ballers that they're just crying racism right now.
Understand this is your job and this is your profession and this is what you get to do, and basketball is my profession and what I get to do. And the reason I play it is when I step in between the lines, I love it. And that's what's so fun about it for me is like I get to compete. This was always my dream and nobody should ever try to take that away from me. Like the love and the joy that I have for the game, and they haven't and they won't, because it's my goal to win championships. And I know that I can help this team do that. And that's always what I remind myself in the moments that, you know, things go downhill.
You have to be on the floor for those 17 games
Damn right.
in order for that to happen, both health-wise
Exactly.
and technical fouls.
Yeah. Good point. I was thinking more health. I forgot about the technicals.
So how are you squaring that in your head? Because that is within,
I think
you.
it should be a great challenge for me to try to last 17 games without getting a technical. Unfortunately, I haven't got a single technical foul rescinded all year. But I think like the fire and the passion, like that's what makes me me.
Yes.
And absolutely there's moments where it can be reined in a little bit. And I think there's moments where I've been a little bit dull. The moments you see me at my best, I'm smiling, I'm fiery, I'm in it with the crowd. And that's what allows me to dominate the game, control the game, have fun with the crowd. Like I feel like an entertainer in a way. Like this, it's like an art to me. It's like it's fun.
You know, maybe she is racist. I don't know. But a lot of the Black players and a lot of the Black women around the WNBA just believe she's racist.
The honest reflection, but in totality, Monica, we don't often get to hear Caitlin Clark's perspective in quite this level of honesty. And this is an important conversation to continue to have with empathy for everybody involved. So listening to that, what was your reaction?
I thought the word of being fearful of the conversation after a game that she alluded to was interesting, because oftentimes it seems, at least in the larger discourse, and not that there's not an emotional experience for Caitlin Clark, because I believe that it is, but it's the folks that are accused of doing something outside of the parameters of competition that are actually the ones that are fearful when you look at their social medias. This is what I will say. Caitlin Clark is 24. She is a shining star in the galaxy of the WNBA. But I do think as she continues to matriculate through this league, there's room for a little bit more.
You know, it's funny how they fired Ryan Clark, but they kept the woman. They kept her around, which You know, we can live with Ryan Clark getting fired, but you know, I think you forgot one.
The galaxy of the WNBA. But I do think as she continues to matriculate through this league, there's room for a little bit more accountability and self-awareness in terms of her role in the larger sisterhood, if she sees it that way, in the WNBA. But Malika, I agree with.
Now, Monica here is saying that Caitlin Clark has to take accountability because all the Black women in the WNBA appear that, you know, they appear to think she's racist, right? All the Black women that play lady ball think Caitlin Clark is racist, and Caitlin Clark needs to take accountability for that.
I think I have a great performance coach. Obviously helps with the basketball, and then I have like really great people around me that allow me to vent. And I think that sometimes like people forget like I have feelings. Like I'm a real individual. Like I feel things and I have emotions and I get emotional and I get frustrated and I get sad and I get upset. I get happy. I get joyful, and like I feel and experience all that stuff. But at the same time, like I have really thick skin. And I think also I always try to remind myself is like social media is not always reality, and that is really lost on people. And I think we get so down a rabbit hole all the time that you read all these things and you're like, oh, that has to be true, or that has to be what people really think of me, or that has to be what the young girl thinks of me that's showing up. Like that's not true. Like the young girls and the young boys, they absolutely love the way you play. They love the way you carry yourself. And sure, there's going to be people that don't always agree with your playing style or how you carry yourself, and that's okay. That might mean you're doing something right too. Not everybody needs to love you, but just continue to carry yourself in the correct manner. But there's certainly days that are hard. I would never lie about that. Not everything is amazing and sunny all the time. But
now, Caitlin Clark thinks people hate her because she can play really well and she plays hard. And maybe people love her because she plays really well and she plays hard. But there's another theory about why people love you.
Make it long-term commercially viable.
Two things. I think it has to show up in our storytelling and it has to be encouraged by our families.
Yeah.
To me, right? And so covering the WNBA this past season, Caitlin Clark's rookie year, for all of the conversation that surrounded her, some which was fair and some which wasn't, the one thing that I cannot deny is the amount of little girls that were showing up to follow her, little girls with their parents, and the fervor and the energy there.
Why her?
Same thing.
Why her?
Well, I was just about to say same thing for Angel Reese when I had a chance to cover their games, but I think Caitlin represented. And again, some of this to me probably is not fair to her because it was not anything that she said or was truly based on her personality, but she was a white girl from the middle of America. And so she represented a whole lot to a lot of people, whether that is truly what she prescribed to or not.
She is a white girl from America, from middle America, right? Don't the white girls get representation too? I mean, isn't that the argument that all the other nons use, all the minorities, they want representation? Why don't white girls from middle America deserve representation, right? Which we're going to come, that actually is going to be a great segue. I could have saved this for a minute because the next topic is really indicative of that problem. The white girls of America want, their own too.
We can all say she is a dynamic basketball player and a force both on the court and the marketing sense. But I do think same thing with folks that may have fallen in love with Angel Reese that may or may not have agreed with everything they had to say either. We attach our fandom to these icons for all types of reasons, and sometimes they may not be based in all truth.
The white girls of America, huh? Caitlin Clark is she's definitely not a Black athletic lesbian. And I think that alone is not enough to get you hated because there are a bunch of white women in the league. People talk about, what was that girl, Paige Buckers or something like that. But and I'm gonna go out on a limb here, like I never do, right? I'm gonna go out on a limb and say something a little provocative. There is a phrase that I've adopted from the white part of the internet, from the quote unquote racist part of the internet. I'm gonna put a phrase onto Paige Buckers that I think might be the reason why she and a lot of other white girls don't get the hate that Caitlin Clark gets. for reasons that I don't think Caitlyn herself has actually done anything. She hasn't played into this at all, so it's not like she is to blame in this. But I think a lot of the other white women in the WNBA, they kind of have to, like, you know, go along with the dominant black female social culture of the WNBA. And you know, that's fine for them to keep the head down, play ball, go home, right? And then, you know, there's the other extreme where, like, you become spiritually black. And I think that's one of the reasons why somebody like Paige Buckers is propped up by the black women in the WNBA, because, you know, she's like, oh, you know, you got to celebrate black women this and, you know, black women that. She's constantly, you know, she's Becky Kente, right? She's constantly, you know, towing the BLM line, right? And this is why she gets accused of being spiritually black. Caitlin Clark has never told any line in that regard. And because all she wants to do is play ball better than the rest of these ugly hoes, she is not spiritually black. She's spiritually white, all right? The fact that she just wants to compete and dominate niggas makes her spiritually white. The fact that she just gets up every day so she can be better than every other bitch in this 90% black league is very spiritually white of her. And these hoes, these nappy-headed hoes just do not appreciate her spiritual whiteness.
Speaking of sports no one watches, there's been a lot of excitement in the WNBA this week. Okay, people do watch it now because of Caitlin Clark, and that's what the final point is on. USA article on Caitlin Clark, written by a white woman, Nancy Armour. I think this is called the Savior Complex. She's going to stick up for the black ladies of the WNBA. You have
another white woman who is spiritually black, apparently. Now, you could tell Ann Coulter, you know, she might like a black guy every now and then, but she is deeply spiritually white.
Been following this. WNBA is heavily black and lesbian. Caitlin Clark is almost translucently white, and it seems that she is getting fouled pretty hard and beaten up on the court, which is weird because she's the only one who's gotten anyone to watch WNBA. All the ladies are making more money. They ought to be sending her chocolates and flowers, but no, they're jealous. Jealousy is a very, very bad emotion. It causes you to do bad things that will hurt yourself. And that,
you know what? My bad. I'm totally behind on this one. Let me stop for a minute here. I missed the question from the donations here. And listen, shout out to everybody in the audience. If you want a question answered directly, I will actually, if you go to if you click the link and you make a donation on buymeacoffee.com, I'm not sure what the character limit is, but you can actually type out a question in full for the most part there. And True Hype just dropped another $5 on Buy Me a Coffee, and he asked the question, here's a question for Ryan Clark. If you are unapologetically black, yet you compromised according to his logic, does that equate to cowardice since he was trying to tiptoe around his blackness? So if you are unapologetically black, yet you compromised your blackness, does that equate to cowardice since he was trying to tiptoe around his blackness? Well, I would argue, yeah, and that's probably why he felt so bitter. Because, and this is like how your mind works, you know, when you swallow your pride to gain a thing, then you can accept that. It was a sacrifice to get ahead, right? But if you swallow your pride and then that whole thing turns against you, you kind of start to feel bitter and resentful, which is why oftentimes, you know, people have a hard time swallowing their pride anyway, because it's bitter and resentful no matter what. But at least if you won something, you can kind of mitigate the bitterness. But if it all blows up in your face, you feel really stupid for swallowing your pride. And I think that's what the Ryan Clark, that's why he was like, crying in public after the whole thing because he probably felt like, damn, I was trying to not go there. I should have done it all. I should have let it all hang out. You know what I mean? Look what I get for holding back, right? But oh well, what are you gonna do? Like I said, if you want your questions read directly, please make sure to click the link. You can hit me up on buymeacoffee.com, or you can buy me a coffee of any size. And shout out to True Hype for being a longtime big supporter of the show.
I need that money.
Hit that like button for me, y'all.
Give me the money. Give me the money for all that I would do. Give me the money.
That's what's happening in the WNBA right now. But that's not the story. The story is that this lady writes an article titled Caitlin Clark's flopping isn't just annoying, it's becoming dangerous. Dangerous. She's putting her opponents at risk because a white nationalist faction of Clark's fandom is deeply, deeply problematic. Those racists see Caitlin as a white woman in need of saving and they could take matters into their own hands.
Caitlin Clark she's so much better at lady ball than all these other black women that it's creating a spike in white nationalism. Caitlin Clark balls so hard that white nationalists are now on the rise.
Her evidence, Nancy Armour's evidence for this, is that a couple of the black players who have fouled Caitlin got really mean social media texts, Instagram posts, and death threats. If I could just say, as I have before, about people getting death threats or mean stuff online, every public figure gets death threats. Only pussies whine about it, i.e. Paul Krugman. Everyone gets death threats. It's a big country. They're crazy people. They hear your name. You could be in charge of, I don't know, your local town's flower show. And if your name is in the paper, you're probably going to get yourself a death threat. Point two, motto of the FBI is, if they write first, they're not coming. You never have to worry about death threats. If they're really going to kill you, they're not sending you a note first. This was this one. Well, let me cut to the chase here. I was wondering, okay, well, have any of these black lesbian players, have they been attacked? Has anything happened to them as this, burgeoning movement of white supremacists, as they come out and, Charlie Kirk's one of these ladies.
The lady who wrote that article, she basically accused Caitlin Clark of being on the verge of creating another Emmett Till. Like, she associated like the WNBA and all Caitlin Clark's white fan base to the people who murdered Emmett Till. So black lesbians, beware. All right, all you lady ballers out there, be careful.
So I asked Google AI, so I will get the most politically correct answer. Have any black WNBA players been attacked, physically attacked? No. WNBA black players have not been physically attacked. In fact, there was one guy, Instagram, so he wasn't exactly coming to her address, wrote to one of the black players using the N-word, and as a result, he was fired. He wasn't even a Caitlin Clark fan. He was a sports bettor. He probably wrote to the lady who fouled and lost the game, so he lost money. A sports bettor. It had nothing to do with that huge growing faction of white supremacists.
All right, so now that we've gotten to the bottom of that, we all know that the black lesbians of the WNBA are in fact safe. There's no danger. God forbid Caitlin Clark, I hope Caitlin doesn't learn to dunk. If Caitlin dunks on one of these bitches, it's going to be like a Klan rally, all right? So let's hope that Caitlin never learns how to dunk. But beyond that, there is another controversy that's going around the WNBA, the Lesbian League. Shout out to the Lesbian Lady Ball League. The Triple L. See what I did there? Did you see what I did there? The Lesbian Lady Ball League. Yeah, that's what they do. Hold on, what the hell just happened? Give me 1 second. I done lost the clip I needed to play. Hold on one second.
Paige Buchers and Angel Reese apparently making a $400 bet on the outcome of their team's game. So these two players were betting on the games in which they were playing. Here's the video since deleted. Cut 1.
At All-Star Weekend, you and Angel made a bet with each other on this game. Is that bet still?
This is how the rich stay rich. You gotta save this money. I'm gonna see you next week on Wednesday.
Yeah.
At night?
No, at practice.
Oh, at practice? I mean, I know y'all gonna lose, but if y'all lose, I get to have that. If y'all win, you get it 400. And if we lose, then you get. No, you owe me 400. But I'll say no.
And then in her post-game press conference, Angel Reese said she expected to get her money. Here's Reese, cut 7.
Yeah, I'll be requesting my Apple Pay after this.
Now, here's the problem. The WNBA's collective bargaining agreement explicitly prohibits players from wagering anything of value on a league game, with possible penalties ranging from a fine to suspension or even dismissal from the league. This episode leaves the league in an embarrassing position. Its own.
Shout out to Taz B1 and in the chat. Do you have deep lady ball knowledge, Taz? Let me find out you another one of these niggas with deep lady ball knowledge. All right. I said at the beginning of this whole storyline that I am not a lady ball aficionado. I do not have deep lady ball knowledge. So just roll with me on this one, nigga.
Social media account published evidence of two prominent stars violating the league's gambling rules, then attempted to make it disappear. And one of the players involved has clearly admitted to this in a league-sanctioned press conference. This episode is just the latest in a string of public relations problems for the Women's Basketball League. Right now, Congress is asking for information from the commissioner on whether the league is violating Caitlin Clark's civil rights by allowing her to be pummeled night after night.
Do white women even have rights anymore? Real question. Do straight white women have rights anymore? Because I remember when they first got them, I was reading about it in high school, and I was like, that shit's crazy. I don't know why you would ever do that. And then you gave the women rights, and then now it's like suddenly the women don't have rights anymore. It's wild. Black women are violating white women's rights in the WNBA. And then they call the government on them. This is the best timeline ever.
And then there's the case of Sophie Cunningham, who expressed the opinion recently that men should not be allowed to play in women's sports. And for saying that decidedly non-controversial opinion out loud, she's now being berated and scolded by people in and around the league. And so are her fans. Two 16-year-old girls attended a Seattle Storm game wearing shirts supporting women's sports and carrying a sign thanking Sophie Cunningham for her stance. An owner of the Seattle franchise then, named Celeste Keaton, confronted the two girls, and she cursed at them, and she called them insane.
Yes. A wealthy lesbian owner of the Lady Ball team, she yelled at two young white girls who believed that there are only two genders. Apparently, there's a company called XXXY Athletics, and they have a T-shirt line that they introduced and it just has just a simple logo XX, and then over that X, and over the XX. I mean XXXY. I'm gonna let you watch. I'm gonna stop describing it all retardedly.
Riley Gaines and
It's their commercial.
CRBD are in hot water over their transphobic comments. And I just gotta say, who cares if biological males play in women's sports? Just be inclusive.
Could not agree more. This is just a bunch of fear mongering from right wing bigots.
I'm just gonna say it, she's a bigot.
She's been a massive distraction from our team with her hate-filled rhetoric. Sia is not inclusive. And males invading women's sports isn't even a problem, as far as I'm concerned.
These female athletes just need to work harder.
And not blame others for their lack of success.
Transphobe.
As the captain, Sia is very much responsible for these boycotts, which have cost her team a playoff bid.
Guess we'll see how Sia handles all that pressure tonight.
So that's the culture war for you. We now have a brand that is completely marketed around the idea of gender binary, right? There are no multiple genders. There's no trading genders like players on the basketball team. You can't wear the male jersey one day and then, the team female jersey the next day, right? That is the general argument, the general spirit of the moment. And it's causing problems around the league, right? The idea that there are only two genders it's making people angry. It's making people uncomfortable. And then you got another player. I think it was the girl with the finger point. Sophie Cunningham. She made some comments recently about transgenderism and men, biological men in particular, playing in women's sports. And before we listen to Sophie Cunningham, I just got to give a shout out to the trans community. I know, right? Left field. You didn't expect to hear that shit this morning, didn't you? You did not expect to hear that this morning, all right? But you got to hear the real shit early in the morning. Nobody else is going to tell you these things, all right? I'm here to tell you the real thing. We got to give a shout out to the trans community.
Before death is eternity. After death is eternity. There is no death. There's only eternity. And I be riding the wings of eternity like, yeah, yeah, yeah. Shaklack, clack.
Big shaklack, clack to the trans community out there. The only people who have the balls to take women's rights away. Who else is going to do it? I don't see any other men forcing women back into the kitchen except the transgender community. I think we need more transgenders in all female athletics. All female athletics. Listen, imagine the New York Liberty with a bunch of 6-foot masculine presenting transgender women. Right. Look, who else is punching hoes in the face? Yo, thank you. Nobody else has the balls to punch feminists right in the mouth and get away with it. Clean, get away with it too. The transgender community is doing things to women's rights that I would have never dreamed of. I'm just saying, shout out to them. Shout out to the transgender community. They are doing amazing things. And on this one issue of trans athletes, I kind of, I say all women are women. Hey, have at it. Ball harder. But anyway, all jokes aside, let's get back to Sophie Cunningham.
On that same vein, in that story with ESPN, you talked about wanting to protect young girls who shouldn't have to go against biological men. Just can you expand your viewpoint on that?
I mean, I think I said what I said. I think it's kind of common sense. And I think I'll always believe in that. I think it's really important to protect children. And that's little girls who are also involved in that category. And so I stand on what I said, and I always believe that.
Yeah. Do you see your advocacy on that, like taking any form going forward?
I don't know. I'm not a very political person, but I do have beliefs. I have morals, and I'll always stand on those and be true to who I am. And I think people are going to take it how they want to take it, but I've never even really said anything about that. And so when it comes just to protecting young girls in sport and women in sport, I feel very strongly about that. I think that's why you have Title IX. That's why you have some of the greats in women's sports. If Title IX and women's sports weren't protected, then you wouldn't hear about any type of women in sport. And so I think in the future, it's just really important to protect.
Do you think, I guess, along the line like that, it goes against perhaps, some people might say, hey, for the trans community, this could be something that could come back on us or be targeted against us. Like, how do you, I guess, view that sort of critique?
Like I said, I extend love, and I don't dislike anyone. Like, I think there is room for absolutely everyone here. And I think there's room to love everyone. And I truly think when you get people in the same room, and you have conversations, you actually have a lot in common with a lot of people. And so I'm there to love, but I'm also there to love biological women. And I think that there are rights that need to be protected. And like I said, I'm going to stand true to that. I'll never falter in my beliefs in that, but I have never once said I hated the trans community. Like I said, I think there's space for everyone.
Sophie, what about Connecticut today? Tell us a little bit about the game. What are you thinking about Keys or Garden Brittany? You know her so well.
Yeah, I think it has been so fun. I played with BG for 6 years, and so I know her like the back of my hand. And as of late, she's been playing really good. She's been playing like OG Brittany, and so we have our hands full down in the paint. I really think actually Connecticut is playing really.
Did you guys notice that? Am I the only one who picked up on that? First you asked Sophie about transgenders and the playing in women's sports, right? And she was like, "Oh yeah, no, that's terrible. I don't like transgenders playing in women's sports." And the very next question is, what about Brittany Griner? Did you not notice that? That was a mean segue.
Sophie, what about Connecticut? True to that. I'll never falter in my beliefs in that, but I have never once said I hated the trans community. Like I said, I think there's space for everyone.
Sophie, what about Connecticut today? Tell us a little bit about the game. What are you thinking about Keys or Garden Brittany? You know her so well.
Yeah, I think it has been so.
Like, you immediately go to Brittany Griner. Am I like hold on? Maybe I'm just tripping. Maybe I'm just tripping, right? I don't know. But there's a lot going around. There's a lot going on right now because of those comments that she made. And there was an event that actually happened too. Let me see. I think I got it up here.
CBS's Jan Crawford reports.
Up the floor, Cunningham.
At Tuesday night's WNBA game between the Indiana Fever and Seattle Storm, the focus was on the sidelines. Two teens holding signs thanking Fever guard Sophie Cunningham for speaking up for girls and wearing T-shirts made by a company that advocates for same-sex sports. They were confronted by a Storm co-owner.
Oh my gosh, I know. Nice. Yeah, and she's like, "Oh, I hope Jesus can forgive you for what sin you've done," and like something like that. And then she told us that we were effing insane.
The WNBA fined and suspended the co-owner Celeste Keaton 5 games. The team said it respected the league's decision, and the team's majority owner apologized. Cunningham, known for fearlessly defending teammate Caitlin Clark on the court, is the first active professional female athlete to speak out against transgender females in women's sports. In an ESPN profile earlier this month, Cunningham says girls in sports shouldn't have to go against biological men.
I said what I said. I think it's kind of common sense. And I think I'll always believe in that.
When asked if her words could be seen as anti-transgender, she said,
I have never once said I hated the trans community. Like I said, I think there's space for everyone.
Before the game, Storm player Stephanie Dolson made her feelings clear with a t-shirt saying trans rights are human rights. Outside the arena, Cunningham supporters like advocate Julie Lane said they hope the moment is a turning point.
So we're not stopping. We really hope that other people will join in and just say say out loud what is common sense, just like Sophie did.
They plan another rally before the Fever's next game in Portland. Jan Crawford, CBS News, Washington.
So now we're at the point where we're gonna bully young girls. It's crazy how far women's rights have come. We're now like basically full circle. We're back to bullying young girls again, but now we're gonna bully them into basically being pro-LGBT.
Understand hurting children. I don't understand going after our most vulnerable. Just little girls supporting a woman, Sophie Cunningham, that supported them by saying men should not play against women. And here comes this big old angry lesbian that just rips these two little girls. It's disgusting, but it's the way it is with the Democrats. I don't get it.
But Dan,
I mean, isn't that really like kind of a metaphor for what the Democrat Party really is in practice? It's wealthy old lesbians bullying everybody else till they get what they want. You know, the teachers union, the HR department, they're like this is basically the energy, the spirit of the Democrats. It's wealthy, old, politically connected lesbians bullying everybody else until they get their way.
thought that she had the safe space, Ms. Keaton, to say what she did, right? I know the team came out, the other co-owners came out and they said, oh, we agree with the league with the suspension. We agree with the fine. They're trying to rush to cover that up. But that co-owner who berated those girls, she believed she had the right to do it because this is the way it is in that league. Period. End of story. That's the group of co-owners.
I'm telling
by the
you
way.
this. The one thing that happens there is ignorance and arrogance, right? She's ignorant to the fact that people are paying attention. She's stupid for doing that, and she's arrogant to think that she can get away with doing it. Thank God these little girls stood up. Thank God they were raised right to where we're going to fight for this. No, the WNBA has morons as players. The WNBA has morons in leadership in Kathy Engelbert. And more, as much, they have morons covering the WNBA because so many, excuse me for saying this, women that cover the WNBA are defending this nonsense. They're criticizing Sophie Cunningham, and it's garbage. Morons at every, so you ask me, will they survive? Probably, because they still have Caitlin Clark.
Shout out to the angry white man. I kind of knew his position just going in already, you know. But thank you for that. We needed that. But what we really need is Keisha's opinion.
Just a thought. And you would think, though, too, that given the level of attention that her comments drew, and maybe they did. Like, I don't know if they did or didn't, but there should have been a conversation that should have taken place and said, hey, be expected to be asked this. You know, let's talk about how we're going to handle it. Now, maybe the decision was
maybe that was
the way. And I said it when it came to AZ Fudd and Paige Beckers. That's a bad look. That's a bad look. And I know people will be like, well, it's their job to protect their app. I got it. I understand that. But you're much better off letting the player or the coach ask the question. You should have made Sophie Cunningham available. Simple as that. The rally happened at the game, by the way, which is why it was appropriate to ask the question after the game was over, because it happened there.
Yeah,
So
and kudos to the reporter. I'm mad that they didn't
kudos
give her,
to the reporters.
they
Yes.
didn't give her a follow-up, because my follow-up would have been like, this is a basketball question because the rally happened at the game and we are at a basketball game. Go ahead.
And then, let this be a lesson also for Sophie Cunningham, is that attention you love works both directions, sis. It works in both
Oh, she
directions.
know.
It's the good and the bad. She said per her own words, when they were asking about, sort of this moment that the WNBA is in, was getting some negative attention. She said she was all good with it. Glad you said it. Now answer the question. Make her
Don't
available.
do that. Don't start
just
making
saying.
sense. Don't start coming in here.
And watching all these black professional commentators talk about, Sophie Cunningham or even Caitlin Clark, it is obvious that we're just watching typical girl hate wrapped in blackness as well. There's like the black angle to it on top of that, but this is just girl hate. And shout out to my man Brad with the $10 Venmo donation. Thank you so much for supporting the show. If you guys want to support the show as well, remember, you can click the link pinned in the chat. Hit me up on buymeacoffee.com, or you can catch me on Venmo with a $10 donation. You can be like Brad, support me on Venmo, y'all. Do me a favor, either way, smash the like button for me.
Hulk! Smash! Smash you! You make Hulk angry. You not like Hulk angry. Hulk no like fighting girls.
With your big brain. With your big brain and your big brain and your big brain, and you're making sense with your big brain.
I mean, I hate to make sense. But
did nobody ask you to make sense with your big brain?
Did nobody ask me?
Oh, the reporter they believe is Roberta Flack. No, I'm kidding.
I was like, wait,
F.
what?
Rodriguez. Roberta, she said they think it's Roberta F. Rodriguez. Good to, if it is, shout out to Roberta.
Shout out to you, Roberta.
Forgive us. Yeah, good for you for answering that question.
And a league that has that is at least a third that is queer, like that is going to be a question that will be asked. And you just need to have the conversation.
What other organization in the country is at least a third queer? Like when you think about the gay distribution in America in general, like what are they, like let's max it up to 5% of the American population. How do you get a league that's 30% queer? And I wonder if 30 is even on the low end. Like what if it's closer to like 45%? Because you got to account for the closet. Like, are there still people in the closet? Is the closet still a thing in 2026? Is there anybody left still hiding in there? Either way, I just like a third seems like a lot. Like, is there something in the water?
We're going to have talking topics. They're going to have to sit down and say, these are the things that, and this is, we've been talking about it. And that's why I said it's growing pains, because now they're like, wait, hold on. Because some of these questions you don't even have to answer in the NBA, right? These are not even talk about questions in the NBA. Trans athletes, queer community. You just don't, every now and again, you'll have that one.
Yeah. Trans athletes don't get mentioned in the NBA. I wonder why that is. I wonder why it's hard for biological women who've transitioned into manhood to also play in the NBA. I wonder what's stopping trans men from actually making it into the NBA and dunking on a nigga. How come a trans man can't dunk on a nigga? I think that would be worth money for a viewer. Could you imagine Elliot Page dunking on a nigga? Like, I want Elliot Page to go full chest to chest dunk on LeBron James. Why isn't that happening?
That one athlete athlete. I'm sure there's more, but that one athlete who came out, Jason, he passed away. Collins,
Jason
I believe
Collins,
this was last
yeah.
year. Yeah. May he rest in peace. But these are questions that, and it's always, I remember, especially when they were drafting in the NFL, they drafted, what was his name? To the
Michael
Rams.
Sam.
Michael Sam to the Rams.
Yep.
Everyone knew it was coming. Everyone knew it was coming. There was a press release ahead of time. They had a prepared statement. It was researched. I mean, those things, like when these are topics and they know it's coming, they prepare.
Are you going to try to pretend that being gay is anything like being transgender? Are you going to now act like there's not levels to this shit? This is why nobody likes you, hoes. Always full of shit.
Themselves, whether it's a prepared speech, answers, words, whatever. They prep the player. We've seen that happen over and over again. I remember getting that press release for Jason Collins and Michael Sam. Like, this is what we're doing. We knew it was coming. They informed the players about it. Hey, so this is what we're planning to do. And so I feel like that's what these ladies need. They need some real leadership from the top. And I don't know if that comes with the WNBA PR organization. I've talked to other PR analysts who handle certain players, really well-known players.
Let me show you what the WNBA leadership actually looks like. This is basically what it boils down to. Now that Sophie Cunningham has made those anti-trans comments, people are going to get questioned about it.
What's your stance? What is your stance on men or athletes who test as biological male participating in women's sports? What's your personal stance?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that I would say that I'm educated enough from a scientific standpoint. I don't ever believe that exclusion is an answer. I just don't.
They're going to hide behind fake Fauci science, y'all. I'm not educated enough from a scientific standpoint. I just have no idea. I wouldn't know. Is it a ding-a-ling? Is it not a ding-a-ling? I don't know. What even is a ding-a-ling? Like, I didn't graduate with a degree in biology. I cannot answer these ding-a-ling prone questions. I have no idea. Like, do any of my players have ding-a-lings? Like, I wouldn't even ask them a question like that. Whether or not a player in the WNBA has a ding-a-ling, well, it's frankly nobody's business, okay? Like, that is WNBA leadership right there. They don't even know what a ding-a-ling is anymore.
What's your stance? What is your stance on men or athletes who test as biological male participating in women's sports? What's your personal stance?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that I would say that I'm educated enough from a scientific standpoint. I don't ever believe that exclusion is an answer. I just don't. I do think, when we think about various levels of sport, various governing bodies of sport and things that go into that, like I said, I'm not educated enough at the different levels. I know growing up, I played with the boys all the time.
So
there weren't girl sports.
Would you welcome a biological male in WNBA?
Again, it's like, I don't know. When we talk about biological male and scientifically where we are, I think it's a totally different scenario. As I said, I'm not educated enough in.
Do you know what a ding-a-ling is or not? Have you ever seen a ding-a-ling in all of your experience as an adult woman? Has anyone ever described a ding-a-ling to you while you were in health class or in biology or whatever? Are you familiar with the concept of a ding-a-ling?
In terms of transgender and transitioning, to give you a smart answer, I would say though that I just don't feel like exclusion is an answer, and I think that we need to have deeper, more layered conversations.
And you'd be okay with them in the locker room?
Yeah. Is there any frustration because you guys are in a really fantastic run that this is distracting from that?
There is a frustration, of course, because we want to talk about basketball and we want to continue to work on our game, and we want to continue to grow as a team.
Right. She just wants to play lady balls, and you guys are asking her all these questions about dingalings and whatnot. I kind of feel bad for her. Like, she's not supposed to be full of dingaling knowledge. She's supposed to have lady ball knowledge, all right? But now you have to answer questions about dingaling. Do any of your players, should any of your players have a dingaling? Like, that's the question now that you have to answer. I bet this guy knows what dingaling is.
What's your stance on athletes who are biologically male participating in women's sports?
Yeah, I mean, my focus as a basketball coach, be completely honest, like I don't think I've ever had to think about that. I'm completely supportive of people from all communities, all walks of life. So that's my stance completely. You know, I'm supportive of everyone in the Portland, you know, the community.
Would you be okay with biological males participating in the WNBA?
I think I've given my answer already on that question. I don't feel like I need to go deeper there.
He doesn't want to go deeper. Yeah, he's definitely okay with dingalings in the WNBA. He's gonna be the guy. So he doesn't want to lose his job. Damn right. He's like, I don't even know what a dingaling is. Like, whatever if you want to play, you can play. It's fine. It's whatever. It's whatever. I don't care.
You know, high school transgender athletes participating in high school competitions. This is not a real issue. This is not an issue that impacts any American in a significant manner, right? It is a clearly purposefully concocted narrative that was focus tested by the Republicans in an effort to make that the key fixture of American politics. Well, Donald Trump did it. He banned transgender athletes. Did that help you? Do you feel better now? Do you feel like your life is improved in any significant manner? Of course not, because it was always bullshit. It was always a fucking distraction, a very violent one for the tiny minority of transgender people. It's horrible for them, but it's not good for you. You know,
I love how they always resort to blaming you for any bad thing that ever happens to transgenders. It's a complete, what do you call that Darvel thing? Denial, attack, reverse victim order. It really is like pure psychopathy, like straight out of the textbook. Like, you didn't even freestyle it or nothing. You read it right out the recipe. Just straight up doing the moves.
There's room for absolutely everyone here, and I think there's room to love everyone. I truly think when you get people in the same room and you have conversations, you actually have a lot in common with a lot of people. I'm there to love, but I'm also there to love biological women, and I think that there are rights that need to be protected. And like I said, I'm going to stand true to that. I'll never falter in my beliefs in that, but I have never once said I hated the trans community. Like I said, I think there's space for everyone. I can't applaud her enough. This notion that you're hating on the trans community because you are not a proponent of them participating in female sports is utterly ridiculous. Sophie Cunningham said every word right on the money. There's no hate involved. There's only love we're talking about. But what happened to loving girls who are born biologically as girls? What about their rights?
You can't say that, you know. You sound like a creepy old man. Stephen A. Smith is like, whatever happened to girls who are born as girls? Nope, you're not allowed to like that.
Have a lot in common with a lot of people. I'm there to love, but I'm also there to love biological women. And I think that there are rights that need to be protected. And like I said, I'm going to stand true to that. I'll never falter in my beliefs in that, but I have never once said I hated the trans community. Like I said, I think there's space for everyone. I can't applaud her enough. This notion that you're hating on the trans community because you are not not a proponent of them participating in female sports is utterly ridiculous. Sophie Cunningham said every word right on the money. There's no hate involved. There's only love we're talking about. But what happened to loving girls who are born biologically as girls? What about their rights? What about fairness associated to them? Leah Thomas, I'm going to keep bringing that name up. 400th plus in the world competing as a male, transitions to female, and he was number one. If we're going to act like transitioning from male to female doesn't involve an advantage for that trans athlete, I have nothing to say to you. You're not exercising common sense.
A great closing argument from Stephen A. Smith. We're gonna wrap this one up right here, y'all. I was just kind of going through my notes here, see if I got some other content I want to get out. I might have to do a whole other separate show. You know, the weekends are my time. I don't get as much chance to stream like this during the week, but the weekends I might give 2 or 3 shows. You might get a double header. You never know. But we're going to put a pin in the show right here. Thank you to everybody who came out this morning. Appreciate you guys getting up early with me. Shout out to everybody in the audience in the chat. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Leave a comment if you're watching this on a replay. Thank you to everybody who supported the show. Remember to click the link in the chat. Hit me up on buymeacoffee.com. You can buy me a coffee of any size over there. And I greatly appreciate all you guys coming out. I might come back later on with another show. If not, there is always tomorrow. But in the meantime,
aspiring to be patriarchs like what white men have, that isn't freedom. That isn't going to help anybody. It's certainly not going to help Black people.
It's done. It's done. It's done. It's done. It's done.